Hello and welcome to Where Are They Now? I'm your host, Heather Lindstedt from the class of 1985, and today joining me, special guest is Josh Blagg from the class of 1991, and now the principal here at Parker School.
Great to be here.
Thank you for joining me on this show. I'm sure that these things you've probably done a zillion times because you're kind of a legend now in the Chelmsford school system, but well, you've been here teaching and those kind of things. But let's talk about when you first got going. And you made kind of your name and what high school was all about for you.
Sure.
Were you excited when you got to Chelmsford High and could finally be a freshman and do the things that you loved at the high school level, especially with the swim?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that was something. I had an older sister who was a class of 1988, Jessica, and look forward to joining her at the high school. Grew up swimming, obviously, at the Chelmsford Swim and Tennis Club under Al Thomas, and was so excited to swim under him as he was the head coach there when I was in high school. You know, I started the program at the high school, so I couldn't wait to be part of that program. So getting there was wonderful, and you know, we had my class of '91 had a great group of swimmers, so we were very good right at the start, so that was helpful. So it was fun as freshmen being able to contribute right away and be part of that culture that Al set. So it was just fun being part of the school. You know, swimming is a interesting sport, and then it's like a lot of the athletes swim year round, and it's hard to do other sports because it's kind of like dancing in the sense that you're always doing it all year round, 5-6 days a week. So it's hard to be involved in other sports even if you want to be really good at it. Right.
So, but your dedication to that, and when did you first start swimming?
I started swimming when I was 7.
Yeah.
At the swim and tennis club. Yeah, I remember my mother being like, "I have a surprise for you," and she signed me up for the swim team, and I did one length, and I was like, "Oh my God, I hate this." It's so hard, you know. And but yeah, I quickly fell in love with it.
Had your parents swim?
No,
not
at all.
What about your sister?
My sister swam for the high school. Yeah, and my brother.
Okay.
Yeah, so they all, you know. You get indoctrinated at the swim and tennis club. You learn how to swim. We spent every summer there on the swim team. Basically, rode our bikes there. Spent all sun up to sundown. There was like a summer camp, right? So you just become indoctrinated into that kind of culture, you know. So it was just really fun and just a great activity. Very healthy. You can do it your whole life. You know?
But going into high school, less fear going into high school, right? Having some friends that you already knew from swim?
100%, yeah. I knew pretty much the whole team, seniors on down, just from swimming with them on other teams. They're just, obviously I didn't know everybody because not everyone swims year-round, but yeah, it definitely made a huge difference being able to join something that you already knew and felt comfortable with, you know.
So academically, though, was that easy to do? I mean, obviously as a swim, right, you're pretty regimented with your schedule and those kind of things. So do you feel like that always was a part of like what you were doing academically as well?
I think, for whatever reason, swimmers tend to be good students. I think it's because you spend so much time with your head in the water, you have to work things out in your mind, and I don't know. It seemed to go hand in hand with being a pretty good student. You know, I think I got better even in college, at taking it really seriously. But there's a certain discipline that comes to it because you have to really want to do it and your head's in the water the whole time. Yeah. It's less social, honestly, in practice because you're just working, you know? So there's a self-discipline that helps, that does translate to academics, I'd say. Yeah.
So speaking of, though, you had great success. How did you ever feel as a swimmer compared to some of the other sports? I mean, Chelmsford had different reputation for different sports.
Sure.
Did you ever feel like there's a short change of people just recognizing?
Yeah, it's definitely not like a glory sport, for sure. Yeah, I remember being approached from other coaches. I remember Coach Cato saying, "You got to come out," and it was hard not to because I had a lot of buddies who played football, and I remember wanting to, and then my parents were like, "We'd rather you do this," and freshman year I was kind of bummed I didn't do that, but then once you got into it, I think I kind of became known as a swimmer and had some success early, and that was like, oh, that's what he does, kind of thing. So I loved going to the basketball games, the football games, the hockey games, and cheering on my classmates. So I never really, after that initial, like, oh, I wish I could do that, I was kind of uber focused on
Right.
that passion.
But during the fall, there's no swim, spring, those kind of things. So you became pretty involved with being a class rep and those kind of things.
Oh yeah, I was very much involved in activities because that's less of a commitment than athletics. You know, you can do it once or twice a week, and it's right after school, and then you're done. So I was able to do that, and I love class reps. Donna Foley was one of our class advisors. Barry Ware, unfortunately, just passed away. Was there for 1 year, and then he had to back out. And then Ann Swisbin was our other class advisor, and they're just amazing people, right? So we had a great group of people, great group of kids at the time, and we had so much fun planning events. And I remember selling candy and soda outside of the basketball games. You know, I'd come in dripping wet from practice and come and sell at a basketball game. It was great, and so I love class reps. I love student council. Under Dick O'Donnell, he was our advisor. I ended up being a vice president with John McPhee being the president my senior year, and that was tons of fun. We just had a great time.
Right, but it just means that right after school, it doesn't always have to be about sports. And I think that's been a pretty common thing about Chelmsford and people, that there's other learning avenues and different ways to socialize with outside of your swim team and those kind of things.
Certainly. I mean, I know my sister and my brother, Chris, were involved in swimming, but they're also really involved in the theater program and music. My brother still sings. He's a lead singer of a band right now, so he loves music still. But he was a huge part of the musicals, and I loved going to them and supporting that, and I still do, So I love the music programs here in Chelmsford. I do think that's one of the things that sets Chelmsford apart is you can really have a truly well-rounded experience, and you can have your niche, but then appreciate the niches of your classmates and really kind of celebrate their passions. So I do think it remains a tremendous high school in that sense.
Academically, though, you said you were doing well, and always did well. And again, I think it's a little bit of because you're regimented as a swimmer and those kind of things, and maybe because your head's underwater. I don't know. That's for you to tell me.
Yeah, right.
But who were some of the teachers, though? We have great teachers at Chelmsford that, though, you remember just being more of an influence academically for you.
Yeah, I had a couple. I mean, one comes to mind is Lorna Halal. She was an English teacher. She was really kind of funny, kind of caustic at times, had a wicked sense of humor, but was disarming and just loved literature and really brought literature to life. And this was the first time I really started to really like reading in English was from her. And she really pushed you to improve your writing, but really made great relationships with you as a kid too. She was a great support to me. Lorna and Bernie Battle was, what a great name for a history teacher, right?
Yeah, there you go.
But I mean, I can still remember his lecture on Henry VIII and his wives and all the misadventures and sex lives and you name it. He made history a soap opera, So it was, I still remember it because it was so funny. He had us laughing and falling off our chairs and, during class. It was like appointment viewing watching Bernie Battle. But that was my sophomore year, and unfortunately my mother was super sick and had been sick for a number of years with cancer, and she ended up passing away my sophomore year. But those two teachers, along with Al Thomas, really kept me afloat. Yeah. And it showed you the kind of people Chelmsford High has. And like when you're at your most vulnerable, like those teachers really, I'll never forget it, really were there for you.
Just lifted you up.
Yeah, lifted you up and looked out for you because I wasn't always doing what I needed to do and was neglecting things and just kind of trying to keep my head above water. And they looked out for me and kind of gave me some grace and kept me going. Yeah. So that was wonderful.
Now, were those some of the influences of what you wanted to do in college, or was the bigger influence to find a school that you could swim at?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting process. I think by high school, I was lifeguarding and teaching swim lessons at the Swim and Tennis Club, working for Al as a lifeguard and coach. And I loved to coach and I loved to teach. And I, in the back of my mind, I knew I was going to be an educator. So I was looking for schools that I could kind of get a broad base. Initially, I thought I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, but not so much. But yeah, I think I wanted to get a well-rounded education. I also wanted to, at the time, get out of New England, try something new, and I wanted to continue with sports. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to look at a couple different offers, and was settled upon University of Richmond. It was beautiful school, smaller, And it was a great experience, beautiful.
In about 6 hours, something like that. Not too far, but
Yeah, far enough. I mean, it's a
enough.
good 9 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you have to go up that 95 corridor, so
Well,
it's pretty
that could
hellish
take-
sometimes.
that could take forever. Yeah,
it depends, right?
Yeah.
But it was, it was reachable for
Right.
sure. So it was there. But I wanted to get away at the time because I'd been going through a lot, with everything, with the loss of my mother, and I was ready to like just try something new and kind of get out, knowing that I'd probably come back to New England.
But completely different, right? Going into a freshman year, right? When you're, let's say, a little fish in a big pond, though. When you go to a swim team like that and you're far away, like how was that transition for you? Or did you just always feel like you could find a sense of community within the pool?
Well, again, I ended up doing 2 sports in college. I did water polo as well, and water polo is like the very beginning of school, and then swimming kind of starts slow and then starts. So I actually met 2 different teams of friends, really, the first couple weeks of school. The athletes go a little bit early, so I already knew a bunch of people before classes started, and that is one of the great advantages of being a college athlete. As you know, my son's lucky enough to be playing football at UNH right now, and I think it really helped him to have that camaraderie. He's up there so much early, but he's got 100 guys that he can count on, you know, and that's wonderful to have that kind of brotherhood,
Now, you brought up the water polo. How did you start the program here at Chelmsford?
Yeah, it didn't last too long, but
Right.
you remember the Bay State games, the summer games. They used to have a water polo, and a couple guys, when I was a freshman, said, come and play, you can learn. And I went and loved it, and they went off and graduated, and I said, we don't do anything in the spring, and swimming kind of slows down in the spring, and we're like, let's start a program. We started our own team, and we played prep schools, basically. I think Newton North was the only public high school that we played because they had their own pool, and it was awesome. We had so much fun, and I don't know if you could do that today, but we did it then, and we got free pool time at Greater Lawrence Tech from the pool director I knew. Everything just kind of clicked, and it worked, but it was really fun.
Did Coach Thomas like that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think he wasn't involved in it, but he loved that we did it.
Yeah.
I remember him writing an article for the Lowell Sun the summer after, kind of highlighting it, and because he loved to celebrate anything his athletes did, so he definitely promoted it. Don Benson, who, I don't know if you remember that name, but he was a great swimmer. He ended up playing water polo at Harvard. It was like a all Ivy goalie, and so that's kind of also planted the seed, because I always kind of looked up to Don as someone I wanted to be like, just a great swimmer, a great student, that kind of guy. And I was friends with his younger brother Danny, so we used to go and watch them play water polo. So that's kind of got us all into it. Yeah.
So at the University of Richmond, did you have any record-setting water polo, or was it just swimming records?
Well, water polo, we were pretty good by the end. We were top 15 in the country, which is pretty good because I'd say 12 out of the top 15 are from California.
Yeah.
Because it's like Little League out there. There's a lot of pools out there, right? You can play outside. But yeah, we had a good team by my senior year, and that was really fun. And I swam my first 2 years of college and then just focused on water polo. But before I stopped, I had broke a couple individual records, and some individual medley records that still stand today, only because they discontinued the program. So I guess in the record books for there, unless they ever bring it back.
There you go.
But yeah,
I'll
it was
take
fun
it.
while it lasted. Yeah.
So after 4 years at Richmond, was it did you really solidify that this is what you wanted to do in pursuing your master's in education, and that coming back to, you didn't even have to jump ship. I mean, you could go right back to Chelmsford, and
Yeah,
that's where you taught.
I'm like George Bailey, the guy who never left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew when I came back that I wanted to get into education. So I went to UMass Lowell on like a 2-year program, because I had to pay for it. So I was like subbing and coaching and just trying to make it work. And that's when I initially thought I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, and then did some subbing, and then I'm like, I don't want to do that. They're cute, but you can't do anything.
Right.
It takes so long to transition from one activity to another. I was like, I don't have the patience for that. But yeah, I ended up starting after 2 years, and getting my first gig was at South Row under Jeff Murray, who was a principal at the time, and loved that. And then moved on to 6th grade. I worn a lot of different hats in this district. And I started in '98, so I've been here a while. Taught in 6th grade at McCarthy for a number of years, and then moved up to high school, taught history, and then became a department head, and was a dean for 13 years in Hawthorne House. And
During the teaching time, do you ever remember something like Mrs. Halal or that said that you used?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah,
Or Mr. Battle, like
Yeah.
sometimes you just steal things. Or did you, when you were coaching, did you steal something from Mr. Thomas?
Oh, I mean, definitely. I modeled so much off of who I am as a person, even off Al Thomas. He's been one of my biggest role models my whole life.
Yeah.
But I think he has a real quiet confidence to him. But when he spoke, people listened to him because he didn't often raise his voice. But if he did, you're like, whoa, he's serious.
Yeah.
But I think I try to. Good educators steal a little bit from a lot of different people.
Yeah.
I think the sense of humor with Lorna and Bernie, just like the going out of your way to help someone like Al does, behind the scenes, not looking for any credit, but just believing in kids and going the extra mile to help them. Those kinds of things is the kinds of things I wanted to aspire to be, that kind of educator who is going to really empower the kids to reach their own idea of success and potential, and believe in themselves.
So what's the biggest difference now? I mean, obviously the principal here at Parker, but then obviously you have had lots of roles. But what is the difference between being an administrator and your impact on students as compared to being a teacher?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you have a very direct and daily impact as a teacher. When you shut the door, it's your world. And so you have a concentrated year where you can really make tremendous impact. And I think that remains the biggest impact in education is that teacher to student. And I view my role as an administrator and the principal in particular is trying to set a culture where educators feel free to inspire kids, develop independence, challenge them, give them high rigor, knowing that they're going to be supported by their administrator. And then, as an administrator, you're able to work with the families more, and you tend to work with families and kids that maybe have more struggles. You spend more time with a very small percentage of the population, and then you really do you can have a very big impact on improving the lives of those kids in that community, so it's a very different role, and it's a much you have to look at almost like a aerial view of things, that was the biggest, I think, change for me is like when you're a teacher and a coach, you view things from that perspective and how it affects you and how it affects your kid, your athlete or your student, and then when you're an administrator, you see all the different roles and what you can do to keep it rolling. And everybody comes to you and they have an issue and you have to, try to meet them where they are. And I think it's challenging. Both jobs are very challenging. It's just very different perspective, You
mentioned your son playing football.
Yeah.
No swimmers?
No
swim?
My daughter Emily swam in high school, and she was a captain of Westford Academy. I think they won 4 straight state titles. They were awesome. She loved it, but she was done when she was done.
Okay.
She was a good swimmer.
She didn't want to go to college?
She didn't want to swim in college. She wanted to do other things, and so that was great. My boys pretty much hated swimming. They swim in the summer, and they're decent, but they did not enjoy it at all. They like things with balls, and, football and lacrosse and basketball and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Was that gut-wrenching, though, that you couldn't...
Not at all.
You couldn't coach swimming to your own kids,
No,
but you did a great
honestly.
job for all these others?
It was actually fine. I had spent... My wife was a swim coach as well before she became a running coach. But we had spent so much of our lives around pool, we were happy to take a break. So, yeah. I still keep my foot in it a little bit. The swimming world, I officiate some meets just because I like to see it, but that's plenty, yeah.
But nothing would... do you ever go back and play water polo or anything?
I haven't in a while. So, yeah. The most I do with swimming now is like I live over by Nabnasset Lake in Westford, and I'll swim
Yeah.
in the mornings in the summer.
Okay.
That's really nice. Just swimming outside in the lake, not having to breathe chlorine and go back and forth. You can go a long way before you have to turn around. So, yeah.
So transitioning though from the whole teaching to administration though, I mean, you've kind of hit on it though, but was that something that you always aspired to, or did it just kind of fall into it? Like stepping out of the classroom's got to be a little hard though, because you're making such a big difference. But is that just the next spot for you, or just kind of it just felt right?
It's a great question because I still miss teaching
Yeah.
and coaching every day. I definitely miss it. Some days I'm like, what am I doing? I should be back in the classroom because I loved it so much. But I think, hopefully, I like to think that's what makes me a good administrator, is that I still love to teach and I love being in the classroom, and I really appreciate the job that teachers do and how hard it is. The opportunity came because they were doing some reshuffling, and there was an opportunity to be like an interim department head / dean, and I was like, I'm looking around like, who's gonna do this? I should do it. I should try it. It was like an interim, so I was like, if I don't like it, I can just go back. So it was a nice opportunity where I could literally try on the role, and if it wasn't for me, I had the assurance that I could go right back into teaching. So that was nice. It wasn't a huge risk for me, and I realized, yeah, I think I can make a difference in this role too. So.
Now, you stated that you didn't like kindergarten teaching.
Yeah.
Was there a special grade though for you?
It's ironic because at every level it was like, this is my favorite age, you know? I truly loved every year that I taught. It's hard to say. I think some of my favorite times was in 6th grade. So it's ironic that now I'm the principal of a 5-6 school. So it's like almost coming home. But at that time there were 3-person teams, and I taught with Jennifer Flanagan and Karen Lococo, who actually still teach, and they teach here. So it's wonderful to, I'm not on their team, but I drop in their classrooms all the time because we had such a wonderful collaborative team that we really worked on meeting the needs of our kids. And we really talked every day and said, oh, this kid needs this. Have you tried this with him? And it was just such a collaborative, we were pushing each other to try new things and push the envelope and get the kids to really learn, and it was so fun. It was hard to leave. At the time, I moved up to the high school because I wanted to be able to coach at the high school level, and the timing of our practices, it wouldn't work because the swim team starts at like 2:30, and the middle schools are still in school until 2:45. So even if you left with the buses, you're late for practice every day. It just didn't work, and I wanted to be a head coach, and I wanted to see what I could do coaching,
Right.
So that was one of the reasons why I moved up to the high school. I ended up loving teaching high school, loved the Chelmsford High School so much. But yeah, I don't know if I would have moved up and left that team. I might have probably stayed on that team for longer because we had so much fun. But I wanted to do both, and I could, luckily.
So do you think that your joy of coaching and why you did it and wanted to move to the high school was because of Al Thomas and just to give back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, he's been one of the biggest influences in my life by far. And I definitely aspired to be like him, And I'm not going to say I would ever, reach that level, but I think he has pushed me by the example he's lived his life by, So definitely.
No, we live in a society where everybody keeps saying that kids are different. And I have my opinion. And I've dealt with kids of all ages and those kind of things. Do you really think that kids are different than, or is it just teaching now is just different in getting even more out of students?
I think kids are kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think kids are kids. I think I'm glad I grew up in the time that I grew up. I think there's some outside influences that affect how kids interact with people and each other, in particular technology, that really has colored and kind of, retarded their ability to really make meaningful interactions. And like, you have to provide those opportunities for kids to have those kind of easy, tangible interactions. For instance, we just had like a 5th grade, 6th grade social where it was right after school and the kids got to just play and dance, and there were games and there was no technology and they were having a blast. I'm like, this is okay. This is what you need. You know, we may have done it when we got out of the house. We just play out in the backyard in the neighborhoods. That's in some neighborhoods, I think that still happens, but it's not as common. And I think that hurts kids' development. But I think kids are kids, and I think they're great, and they can be happy and healthy if you give them the opportunity to do so. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
But and I think it does go back to something that we just talked about that Chelmsford always has provided, especially at the high school, is the after-school opportunities to always socialize, though, too.
Yep.
Right? And be a part of something, even if it's not, you know, what everybody thinks it should be. Right?
Oh, yeah.
They're socializing.
I mean, like I said, I was a dean after I was a teacher for a long time, and I always told the freshmen or the 8th grade when I came down to talk to the middle schools, like, this is, you're about to join a great community and an amazing school that you're going to find your place, you know? And I truly believe most kids, the vast majority, find their place, they find their passion, they find something. You know, the academics are still excellent, but what keeps them coming, especially the ones who school isn't their favorite thing, is finding that art club or the drama or set design or music or sports, you know, and they stick to it, and then that's what gets them up every day to come to school, you know. Yeah. And then they want to give back, so. Kind
of like you giving back and enjoying it, but are you enjoying other things these days too, like watching your kid play football and those kind of things? Yeah, I love that. I love supporting him. I love my daughter's down in Jersey City now. She just is joining the profession. On a 2-year basis, she's doing Teach for America. So that's a wonderful opportunity. It's really hard. She's in Newark, and it's super hard. A little different school system than Chelmsford, and she's finding it very challenging. But I love seeing her, and we talk daily about, she'll call me on the way to work, and this is what's happening. What do you think I should do? You know, we just have great conversations about teaching, which is really fun. Right. My wife and I love to get out there in wilderness and hike and ski and snowshoe and all that kind of stuff. We love live music. Like I said, my brother's in the band, so we go watch him play. And yeah, we have plenty of interests, you know, and it is fun now that the kids are getting older. We can do more and more on our own too. But do you think that as an administrator, it kind of levels out a little bit for you? How do you mean? Like that you have a little more free time, not being in the coaching ranks and running. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like definitely less like nights and weekends, but this principal thing's pretty hard. I put a lot of hours in. It's a lot of work. Yeah, so I'm less time doing practices, but I feel like I'm filling those hours with other things. I figured you'd say that. Always a coach, always a teacher. You're always going to be an administrator with that kind of passion. And Chelmsford is so lucky, Josh, that we've had you here in town for so long. And I wish you all the best here at Parker. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me here on Where Are They Now? I can't wait to someday have some of your kids come back and be on my show. Yeah, you never know. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. For everybody else, thank you, and please come back and see our show again at Where Are They Now?